When I put out my last video, What Makes a Virtuoso, people asked in the comments, how come you didn't include Jaco Pastorius or Victor Wooten or John Patitucci? That's because there's one instrument that needs its own video, and that is
bass.
Bass on the bass.
Bass part.
double bass.
And I take it to bass.
Bass player.
For bass.
This is the bass.
Plays the bass.
You know, the bass.
The bass player.
The bass guitar.
I discovered the bass.
The bass.
Bass player.
Bass.
Bass. Can I have a bass for Christmas?
The importance of the bass in music cannot be understated. Not only does it define the harmonic function of a chord, new studies suggest that superior time perception for lower musical instruments explain why bass range instruments lay down musical rhythms. Virtually all people respond to the beat when carried by lower pitched instruments like the bass. One of the reasons the bass is so important in any genre of music is that it not only defines the quality of the chord, but it defines the function of the chord as well. If you have a chord like C major, and the bass is playing the tonic C, it could be the tonic of C major, it could be the 4 chord of G major, or it could be the 5 chord of F major. If I play it in first inversion, meaning the bass is on E, still a C major chord, that chord is going to have a natural resolution tendency to move up to F major. So it gives it a different type of function. If it had F sharp in the bass, it could function as a tritone substitute. Or if I change the bass note to F sharp, so that'd be C major over F sharp, it could function as an altered dominant chord. And an F sharp 7, flat 9, flat 5, which could resolve to a B minor 11, for example, flat 6. You can also use any type of minor chords. It really doesn't matter. I could take an A minor chord right here. I could put an F sharp in the bass, and it becomes an F sharp minor 7, flat 5. I could put an F in the bass. It becomes an F major 7. When it comes to harmony, the bass player has all the power. Change the bass note, change the chord. The use of bass as a rhythmic and harmonic instrument really began with jazz in the 20s, moving on through the 50s when rock and roll began. In jazz, bass was not only used to play quarter notes to define the chord progression, it was also used as a solo instrument. Session players like Carol Kay and Motown legend James Jamerson, through his playing on tunes like I Want You Back, through their influences, ushered in a whole new era of electric bassists playing jazz in the 1970s, like Jaco Pastorius, Stanley Clarke, and then later, Jeff Berlin. From the late 80s through the early 2000s, we saw even more jazz bass virtuosos appear on the scene. John Patitucci, Anthony Jackson, Victor Wooten, Richard Bona. Rock, soul, and funk developed separately from jazz. In the 1950s, a number of companies began manufacturing electric basses. Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker, Danelectro, Hofner. These were all to become the instruments of rock and roll. By the 1960s, the electric bass dominated all types of popular music. Some of the bands even had lead singers that were bass players. Here are some of the greatest rock, soul, and funk bass players of all time. In the early 90s, we saw a return to the riff-style bass playing from the late 60s and early 70s. One of the things I find fascinating is that some of the biggest music channels on YouTube are actually devoted to bass. Adam Neely.
Hello, my name is Adam Neely.
Scott's Bass Lessons. Davey 504. These are all bass players' channels with millions of subscribers between them. Now, I know I didn't talk about a lot of the 80s metal bass players because a lot of the bass playing there were bass lines that actually just played what they needed to with the song. So if I forgot your favorite bass player, I'm sorry, but that's all for now. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. If you're interested in the Beato book, go to my website at www.rickbeato.com. And remember, follow my Instagram at rickbeato1. Thanks for watching.